Hare Krishna. Guruve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasarashishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again, millions and millions of times, unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasarashishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and all the Vaishnav and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, Dandavat pranams. So today is a very special day in that we're leaving Vrindavan and we're going to Govardhana, Giriraj Govardhana, for the rest of the Parikrama up till the 23rd of November. So today's a very busy morning. Everyone's running around packing their bags and making sure their bags are on the roof of the buses. And quite early on, we're going to sail out of Vrindavan and heading towards Giriraj Govardhana. On the way, we'll stop in Bahulavana and we'll hear some beautiful pastimes there. Then we'll stop in Paitha and we'll hear those pastimes. Also Chandra, Sarova will stop. So 3 places. And then we'll arrive in Giriraj Govardhana at our Giriraj Gaudiya Mat and in time for lunch. So it's not a long day traveling, but it's a big shift in consciousness. When we reach Govardhana, the crowds become less than they were in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, it's very, very congested at this time of year, and all the infrastructures of Vrindavan are completely tested to the max, with millions of people wanting to spend their Kartik Parikrama in Vrindavan. Govardhana also gets crowded, but the crowd is always moving off again. Generally, people come for 2 or 3 days, they do Parikrama, and then they leave again. So it's not a long-term crowd in a sense. So we'll be there very soon this morning. I just want to make one correction about what I was speaking about Raval. I spoke to my dear friend Bhaktivedanta Ashram Maharaj, and he sent me this file from Rupa Goswami's Lalit Madhav. So in this file, which I'm going to post today, along with the letter with the link for this Parikrama Day's Katha, the file from Rupa Goswami's Lalit Madhava, where he describes in detail this pastime. So the correction I have to make is that it wasn't Himalchal who was the father of Radha in the Himalaya. It was Vindhyachal. Vindhyachal is the name of the mountain. Vindhyachal. Vindhyachal had become envious of Himalaya mountain. The Himalaya mountain had the daughter Parvati. Parvati means mountain. So Himalaya and Meena, his wife, they had the daughter Parvati, who married Shivji. So Vindhyachal, he wanted to have a daughter who was going to marry someone even greater than Lord Shivji. So the whole story that I told was exactly the same, was exactly correct, except for this detail about the name of the mountain that Radharani took shelter of to satisfy that mountain's desire to have a son-in-law greater than Himalaya. So that mountain's name, who was like Radharani's father, we can say, was Vindhyachal. So I'm posting that attachment today, and you can read the whole thing. So that was the only difference that I made between when I presented that, was the name of that mountain. So today, as I just said, we're going to Bahulavana first. and I'm going to read something from the Parikrama book about Bahulavana, and then I'll speak something alongside of that. So Gurudev is describing Bahulavana. We come to Bahulavana, by the way, now, of course, where all the rest of our parikrama is going to be on the west bank of the Jamuna. We've already covered the 5 principal forests and some of the upavans, some of the smaller forests on the eastern side. That was Bhadravan, Bandirvan, Bailvan, Lohavan, and Mahavan. And we also went to Matvan, which is on the other side on the eastern side of the Jamuna. So now we're in the western side for the rest of the parikrama. So now we're going to go to Bahulavana. Just below Bahulavana is the forest that we've already been to, which is Madhuvan. And further south than Madhuvan was Talvan. And then across to the west of Talvan is Kamudvan. So we had darshan of those 3 places right at the very beginning of the parikrama. But now we're coming to Bahulavana. These forests are quite close together. These 4 forests, Bahulavana, Madhuvan, Talvan, and Kamudvan. And as we drive from Vrindavan out to Giriraj Govardhana, these 4 forests are all on our left-hand side. They're all on the west bank of the Yamuna. So Bahulavana is very close to the main road. So we're just going to go off the main road and spend some time in Bahulavana and then carry on that road out towards Giriraj Govardhana. So now I'm just going to read from Srila Gurudev's VRAJA-MANDAL Parikrama book. The charming forest of Bahulavana is full of beauty. According to the Skanda Purana, Sri Hari's Sakhi, Bahula, resides here. This place is now called Bhati. It lies 7 miles west of Mathura, between Radhakund and Vrindavan. Once, when Srimati Radhika was in a sulky mood, she hid herself in a kunjia. In separation from her, Krishna became completely distressed. With the help of the Sakhis, he was able to find Srimati Radhika, and with great difficulty he pacified her man. In the temple, on the bank of Sankarshan Kund, are deities of Sri Krishna, a tiger, a cow, its calf, and a brahmana. So now there's a beautiful pastime about the tiger, the cow, the calf, and the brahmana. So basically, the tiger confronted a female cow, caught her, and attacked her in this place, and was ready to devour her. But the cow pleaded with tears in her eyes, "Oh, please, dear tiger, allow me just to go and feed my small calf one more time, just to nourish him. He's only just been born, and he needs to have his mother's nourishment at this time. Just allow me to fulfill this desire, this last desire, and then, on my word of honor, I will come back and you can eat me then." So the tiger was somewhat of a dharmic tiger residing in Bahulavana. So he allowed that female cow to go back to her calf and suckle her calf. And that cow, when she came back to the calf, she was very unhappy. And her calf questioned her, "Oh, why, mother, are you so unhappy today?" And then the female cow, the mother, she responded that, "A tiger attacked me, but he allowed me to come back to give you one more feed of my milk. And then you will be strong enough to maintain your life, and then I'll go back, and the tiger, he will eat me." But then the calf became very silent, and the calf said, "Oh, mother, I will go in your place. I will go and the tiger will eat me. You are so big and strong and have so much milk to give to the world. I will go in your place. I'm just very small, just a child. So the mother, she said, no, I must go. Meanwhile, the Brahmana, who could also speak the language of the cows, was overhearing this pathetic conversation between the mother and the calf. And he resolved, no, I will go instead. I will go and give up my life. I will not allow my darling cow and its new calf to be eaten by the tiger. I will go in its place. And then at the appointed time, all three of these persons came at the same time with the intention of being eaten by the tiger. The cow, the calf, and the Brahmana. They all came together. And at that time it's described that Gurudev describes at that moment Sri Krishna himself appeared there, and the tiger underwent a change of heart. By the mercy of Sri Krishna, the Brahmana returned home safely with his cow and calf. So this pastime we relate there because this is a indication of the softness of Krishna, how he can even influence the ferocious tigers. Of course they were tigers in the time of Radha and Krishna in this area, but they were all softened and pacified by the strength and potency of the Supreme Lord, and this is an example of that. Gurudev also describes here that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wandered through the different forests, he became overwhelmed by the natural beauty of this place. A charming and heart-rendering description of this is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita as follows. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered Bahulavana, the beautiful cows grazing there surrounded him. They stopped eating the grass and, overflowing with prema, began to bellow and lick his body. Seeing the affectionate motherly mood of the cows, Mahaprabhu became completely absorbed in ecstatic waves of prema. When he regained some external consciousness, he began caressing the cows, and they did not want to leave him. It was with great difficulty that the cowherd folk forced them onwards. Again, Sri Mahaprabhu became absorbed in transcendental emotions. Weeping, he called out, "Kotai Krishna, Kotai Krishna, where is Krishna, where is Krishna?" Herds of deer and does gathered and fearlessly licked Mahaprabhu's limbs with affection. Parrots, cuckoos, and bees began singing in the fifth note, and peacocks danced before him. Completely jubilant, the trees and creepers covered themselves in buds, new leaves, and flowers. With their arm-like branches and twigs, they lovingly offered their flowers and fruits at the lotus feet of Sriman Mahaprabhu. Seeing the ecstatic emotions of the moving and non-moving entities of Vrindavan, Sriman Mahaprabhu's absorption in transcendental ecstasy intensified. He loudly cried, "Chant Krishna, chant Krishna," and all of those moving and non-moving entities echoed his words. Sometimes Mahaprabhu, crying piteously, clasped hold of the necks of the deer and does, who gazed at his lotus face with love-filled glances and tear-filled eyes. A little further on, Sriman Mahaprabhu saw a female and male parrot, a Sari and Shuka, sitting opposite each other on two branches of a tree, lovingly quarrelling about the glories of the divine couple, Sri Radha and Krishna. The Shuka said, "My Krishna is Madan Mohan, the enchanter of Cupid's mind." Sari responded, "Yes, he is, as long as my Radha is on his left side. Otherwise, he is only Madan, Cupid." Shuka responded, "My Krishna lifted Giriraj on his little finger." Sari responded, "Because my Radha transmitted power into him. Otherwise, how could he have done so?" Shuka, "My Krishna is the life of the whole universe." Sari, "My Radha is the life of that life." Shuka, "My Krishna's head is beautifully decorated with a peacock feather. Sari, only because my Radha's name is marked on that feather. Shuka, the peacock feather on my Krishna's head leans to the left. Sari, because it wants to bow down to my Radha's feet. Shuka, my Krishna is the moon. Sari, my Radha is the trap that captures that moon. Shuka, there is no need to quarrel uselessly. Let us glorify the youthful couple together. Sari, I happily agree to this. This loving quarrel between the Sukha and Sari is also described in Govinda Lilamrita. Here, the male parrot says, May our Lord Jagmohan, whose unparalleled beauty plunders the wealth of patience of an innumerable multitude of women, whose world-famous glory astounds even Lakshmi Devi, whose strength turns the majestic Govardhana mountain into a child's toy, who has unlimited qualities, whose simple disposition entertains everyone, and whose glory substantiates the welfare of the entire universe, protect the entire world. Hearing this, the female parrot replies, this is from Govinda Lilamrita again, Shuka, Sri Radhika's divine love, beauty, dancing, excellent calmness, expertise in music, wealth of good qualities, and poetic compositions, or in other words, her erudition, are all so attractive that she steals away the heart of Sri Krishna, who enchants the mind of the entire universe. The male parrot then says, this is from Madhya Lila 17, 214, verse 214. Dear Sari, all glories to Sri Madan Mohan, the enchanter of Cupid, who carries a flute. He steals the heart of all women in the entire universe and enjoys with the gopis. After hearing the parrot's loving quarrel, Sriman Mahaprabhu watched the dance of the peacocks. Seeing the bluish necks, he remembered Krishna and became so overwhelmed in ecstatic love, he fell down on the earth in a faint. His companions somehow brought him back to consciousness, and he continued his parikrama of Braj. So this is just a little window into the speciality of Bahulavana. Bahulavana is filled with sweetness, and in the early morning hours, when we're going to have darshan of this beautiful place, in principle, we'll be seeing the Sankarshan Kund will be in front of us very beautifully. And we can appreciate some of these specialities by hearing these pastimes, especially as Mahaprabhu has been described listening to the Sukh and Sari's beautiful conversation. So these pastimes are going on eternally within the forest of Bahulavana. So now we're leaving Bahulavana and we're going to continue our journey out to Giriraj Govardhana, and we're going to stop on the way at one small village called Paitha. In this village, it's famous because it's the exact location where Krishna appeared with his four-armed form to bewilder the gopis when they were desperately searching for Brajendranandan Krishna. And when they all came in front of four-armed form Krishna, he bewildered them and they didn't know that this was Krishna. So I'm going to read again from Srila Gurudev's VRAJA-MANDAL Parikrama book about this beautiful village. This village is situated 2 miles south of Parasoli. When Sri Krishna disappeared from the Rasastali during Vashant Ras, the grief-stricken gopis began searching for him everywhere. Krishna assumed a four-armed form at this place, and when the gopis saw this form, they simply offered pranam and continued on their way. Srimati Ji arrived a little later, searching for Krishna in separation. Beholding Srimati Ji, Sri Krishna could no longer maintain his four-armed form, and 2 hands entered, Paitha Gaya. So Paitha Gaya means 2 hands are entering. That's why the place is called Paithagram. Entered his body. He met Srimataji in his form as an ever-fresh, youthful cowherd boy, an expert dancer holding a flute in his hand. Krishna begged forgiveness from Srimataji. He said, "Priya, when I suddenly did not see you in the rasa, I became aggrieved in separation from you and began searching for you. This rasa is for you only. You should never go into man and leave me ever again." So this is the pastime here. Gurudev continues, "Thus, Vasanti Ras has its own speciality, in which Srimati Radhika's superiority over the other gopis is established. The poet Sri Jayadev Goswami has described Vasant Ras in his Gita Govinda. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives Vasanti Ras alone as proof of Srimati Radhika's preeminence. This subject has been described very sweetly in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in the conversation between Sri Rai Ramananda and Mahaprabhu, the Rai Ramananda Samvad. This place has a very special significance for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Krishna has many beloveds, but Srimati Radhika is the crown jewel of them all, because she is the embodiment of Mahabhav and the possessor of all good qualities. This is why Sri Krishna is able to maintain his 4-handed form before the other Sakhis, but could not maintain his bhav upon seeing Srimataji. His 2 extra arms entered, Paitha Gaya, into his body. This is the special glory of Radhaji. So this is the place that we're going to have darshan of, and we're going to remember the significance of this pastime, as we've spoken repeatedly throughout this parikrama. This distinction between Aishwarya Bhav and Madhurya comes out during this pastime. The gopis, they're not interested in this Aishwarya mood that Krishna displayed with his 4 arms. They didn't even recognize Krishna. This wasn't the Krishna. This wasn't their Brajendra Nandan Krishna. This wasn't the Krishna that they were searching for. They had given their hearts to Brajendra Nandan Krishna, not to Lord Narayan or the Vaikuntha mood Krishna. So this distinction is accentuated by the speciality of this place. This is where, when the gopis, they were in such distress, searching for Krishna through the forest, and then they came to this form of Krishna, and they just offered pranam and then went on their way. But of course, when Srimataji came, then Krishna was not able to maintain that covering of Aishwarya. Srimataji's, her love could pierce that Aishwarya Bhav within Krishna very easily, and again his Brajendranandan form manifested. So this is the pastime that we're going to hear here. Now we're going to go a little bit further, and we're going to come to the very beautiful, delightful Chandra Sarova, where the moon, Chandra, was shining brightly for the whole night of the rasa that was performed here. So our dear friend, Sripad Bhaktivedanta Tapasvi Maharaj, is going to describe something of this stali and something of the moods about Chandra Sarova. So Chandra Sarova ki jai, Paithagram ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.
All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Now we are at Chandra Sarovara, and in India there are many festivals held for worship of Krishna. This year is divided into 6 seasons. The year is divided into 6 seasons, each lasting 2 months. Among the 6 seasons, the most glorious is Vasant, spring. The Vasant season is very pleasant, for the weather is not too hot, not too cold. It's a very pleasant time, and there's an abundance of fragrant flowers, and even flowers are blooming at night. And the river Ganga and the Jamuna, they're especially clean and pure at that time, looking as though they are simply waiting for Radha and Krishna, and the lands in many places look like yellow carpets because they are full with varieties of yellow flowers. Krishna's garments are also yellow because his most beloved Srimati Radhika has a yellowish golden complexion, and he wants to be always embraced by her. So in the Vasant season, the Ras dance of Krishna was performed in Govardhana, so where we are now, in this village, Parasoli, by this lake known as Chandra Sarova. At that time, the gopis were dancing with Krishna for the duration of a night, where time became compressed into one entire night of Brahma, billions of years. On that night, the moon stood still, not moving from its best view of the sight of the dancing of Radhika and all her Sakhis with Krishna. In Saradiya, the autumn season, the Ras dance was performed in Vrindavana, under the shade of the Vamsivat tree, in the beginning of the Kartik month. In that Saradiya Ras Yatra, all classes of gopis participated, whereas in this one we are talking at Chandra Sarova, that in this Govardhana Vasanti Ras Yatra, only the highest class of gopis were allowed to participate. In this Leela, Krishna openly demonstrated the prominence and superiority of Srimati Radhika. Now, most of this is described by Srila Jayadev Goswami, this Vasant Ras Leela, in his Geet Govinda. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to hear this description and weep loudly, with tears rolling down his face and with a melted heart. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Vasant Ras has been described as giving vivid evidence of the prominency of Srimati Radhika over millions of gopis. Our Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, he would say that in our Guru Parampara, Krishna is at the top. But Krishna, what does he say? He says, Radhikara Prema Guru Ami Shishyanata Sada Ami Nad Nritte Nachaya Ubdhata. This is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela chapter 4, text 124. My Guru is Radharani, Krishna says. In loving affairs, my Guru is Radharani. So she always makes me dance according to her tune. So who is at the topmost platform of Guru? That is Radharani. So although in our Guru Parampara the topmost position is Krishna, he says, Radharani is my Guru in loving affairs, and she makes me dance according to her tune. I'll dance. Ami Shishanata. I am her disciple and Nata dancer. I remember Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj saying this, and he would give the example of the disciple. He says, if the Guru says to the disciple, up, then the disciple has to get up. And then the Guru would say, down. Then the disciple would have to sit down. So up, down, and he was getting one devotee to stand up, to sit down, stand up, to sit down, and we were all there, and we were all laughing so much. He said, yes, this is like the Guru and disciple. The Guru has that right. He can tell the disciple to stand up and sit down. He said there cannot be any court case. He said the disciple has to do what the Guru says. So he gave this example for Radharani, that she is the Guru of Krishna, and Krishna is dancing to her tune. I'll dance. So in the Guru Parampara, the topmost position is Radharani. This is Guru Tattva. those who get Vraj Seva Adhikar, the right to serve Krishna in Vrajabhumi, they are the servants of Radharani. And thus they get the opportunity to serve Radhanath. And Gaurasundar is Radha Bhav Duti Suvalitam. So it means that Radha Bhav is predominating in Gaurasundar. What does he say? This is his own statement. This is not the body of Gaura, this is the body of Radha. Gaura says this: only Vrajendra Nanda Sutta, the son of Nanda Maharaj, can touch this body. Nobody else can touch this body. So, meaning that Radha Bhav is predominating in Gaura. So those who are Gauranugas, followers of Gaura, they are Radhanugas, because Radha Bhav is predominating in Gaura. This is Gaudiya Gurudhar. This is Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj speaking this. So now he gives a qualification of such a guru who is in this Gaura Gurudhar, Gaudiya Gurudhar. He who is completely, day and night, constantly, 24 hours, engaged in the loving service of Krishna, that is Guru. Seva means to be served, and Sevak means servitor. This is a very deep philosophical point. One has to accept Radha as Guru, otherwise how can you understand Krishna in Seva Tattva, the only one to be served? Gurudev is saying in a lecture in Murwillumbah, Australia, February the 17th, 2002. So when Krishna sees Radhika, his most beloved and the embodiment of all love and affection, he forgets everything else. She is none other than Krishna. She is Krishna himself and the body of Radhika. So this is a very beautiful explanation of how Srimati Radhika is the topmost and how Mahaprabhu is in Mahabhav. So on VRAJA-MANDAL Parikrama, like today, we're hearing so many discussions on Radha Tattva, Gopi Bhav, Rasa Leela, and other elevated topics under the guidance of our Guru Parampara. And we are encouraged to be sober and to hear, describe and remember these topics. There's one verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, chapter 33, text 39. It says there that a sober person who, with full faith, continuously hears or describes Bhagavan Sri Krishna's transcendental Ras Leela with the damsels of Vraj will first attain Parabhakti for the lotus feet of Bhagavan. Thereafter he will quickly conquer his senses and become forever free from the disease of the heart, worldly lust. Disease of the heart. He'll become free from the disease of the heart, which is worldly lust. So here, Gurudev is explaining in the Rays of the Harmonist, 23rd of January 2012. If anyone listens with shraddha, with deep faith, to the descriptions of these unprecedented and unparalleled leelas, this Ras Leela, he will receive prem bhakti for Krishna within his heart. The word anusrunuyat indicates continuous hearing. And the word varnaye means to explain. First he will engage in continuous shravan, or hearing, and then he will engage in continuous kirtan, or singing about and describing these pastimes. And after that, he will be able to engage in continuous smaran, or remembrance. So he's going to hear, as we're doing on this VRAJA-MANDAL, we're going to hear. Some will speak, and when they speak, what is a natural result? They'll also remember. So the word anumodan means appreciation. Even if someone cannot engage in continuous shravan, kirtan and smaran of Ras Leela, but still feels appreciation for it, then he too will receive prema bhakti, the topmost bhakti for Sri Krishna, within the core of his heart. So first prema bhakti, the most elevated form of devotional service, parabhakti, will enter into his heart, and then, afterwards, the hridrogam asvapahinoti, the disease of the heart, will be driven out very quickly. So Srila Rupa Goswami, we're hearing all this, beautiful Harikatha, yet there's a caution by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He says that the Rasa Leela is one of the most difficult Leelas to describe because of its confidential nature and because it is unsuitable for those who have no taste in Madhurya Rati, since it seems similar to the ras of the mundane world. So in the previous verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam that I'd mentioned, it's mentioned that what is the qualification to hear Shraddha, means deep faith. So I just wanted to go over briefly a few points to help strengthen our spiritual strength, specifically the topic of Ras Leela and paramour love, or unwedded love, as the gopis have for Krishna, as we are discussing that Leela here today. It means that to understand this from Siddhanta, in that way our doubts and our heart is clearer to embrace these teachings. Because also in the Western world, Western intellectuals, Christian evangelists, along with many other people, they have criticized Krishna's dealing with the gopis as immoral. So first let's look at the person who's speaking these pastimes and how utterly renounced he is, Sukadeva Goswami. Essentially, the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam comes after 9 cantos. And these 9 cantos, they elaborately talk about the purity and power of God and the purity and the power of his devotees. So Sukadeva Goswami was transcendental to all material temptations. You remember the time when he leaves his house and he's running through the forests, and there are some young maidens taking bath in a kund, and they are completely unfazed, undisturbed by Sukadeva, this 16-year-old boy, beautiful young boy, running past them, going past them. And where his father, Vyasadeva, they immediately covered themselves. So this Sukadeva, he was completely free. He didn't even see the male-female duality because he saw beyond the body. He was above completely the 3 modes. So we're talking about Sukadeva Goswami means he's speaking this Bhagavatam which contains the 10th canto. If he is not disturbed by such natural enjoyments, then why is he ever going to say or write something immoral? In the first context, we need to see that the author who is speaking this is entirely transcendental, has no material temptation, and so is it is completely unreasonable that we'd write to glorify some immoral activity. Secondly, if we look at the first 9 cantos, the first 9 cantos glorify bhakti for Bhagavan, and the bhaktas are often put in extraordinary settings. For example, we know Prahlad Maharaj, he gave up everything for bhakti. He was offered so much by his father, but he refused all of that. What did he have in common? What did Prahlad Maharaj have in common with a ferocious lion-like giant, Nrsimhadev? And this tender young boy and Lord Nrsimhadev, this ferocious lion, what did they have in common? The only similarity and the only link is the link of the heart, bhakti. So he gave everything up for bhakti. He gave everything up to hold to that principle that he's completely dedicated, surrendered to Lord Sri Krishna. So he's showing us actually what love is. That all these other temptations, all these other challenges that come are of little interest, although they are great difficulties as he faced. Also another example is Bali Maharaj and Vamanadev. Bali Maharaj, he gave up his whole kingdom and even ignored the instructions of his guru for bhakti. So why I'm speaking this is because all this prepares us for focusing on the essential reality of bhakti, so that bhakti is the essence. That all these devotees went through so many difficulties, but they gave everything up. Bali Maharaj gave his whole kingdom away. Why? Because that relationship, devotional service to Vamandev was the highest, that relationship in his heart. So this is all preparing us so that we can see the relationship between Krishna and the gopis, that we will focus on, what we will focus on is bhakti and not the apparent male-female relationship. So in other words, the gopis, that their relationship as devotees with Krishna is really what we focus on in terms of their love for Krishna and Krishna's love for them. In the 10th canto in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is an introduction of the love between the Lord and the devotees in the most human form, which means Krishna appears just like a male and the gopis appear to be female. So naturally people may think, oh, this is just like a male-female relationship. But Bhagavatam, throughout its 9 cantos, told us that actually Krishna is God. And Krishna relates to his devotees on a spiritual level. So the highest understanding, if we see the philosophical point of view, the gopis are all devotees of Krishna. So that's why when we read the Bhagavatam progressively, step by step, because it preparing us that bhakti, devotion, is the highest. Not only this, the Bhagavatam also talks about lust. It condemns the perverted, this lust, and cautions spiritual seekers away from it. After glorifying bhakti and condemning lust, then when it talks about the pastimes between Krishna and the gopis, there it also repeatedly keeps on warning us. So we have to understand the position of the gopis. We can see them not just as young girls, but as great devotees, as exalted devotees. In fact, as we know, some of the sadhana siddha, perfected devotees, were the sages from the Naimisharanya forest. And they perfected their lives and became gopis. So this is to show us that these are great sages and they have achieved this perfection. So we can try to understand the most exalted position of the gopis. It's interesting that Lord Chaitanya explains there is no devotion superior than the Vraj gopis. Lord Chaitanya was a sannyasi of the highest order. The ultimate state of renunciation. And he's explaining the highest state of renunciation was exhibited by the gopis of Vrindavan. Lord Chaitanya explained that in his sampradaya that all the exalted great sannyasis, that they must meditate on the renunciation of the gopis. So this is a very transcendental conception that sannyasis of the highest order who have given everything up in this world, they're niskinchan, they don't have any I and mine. They've given everything up. They live such a simple life that they're meditating on beautiful young girls who are having their husbands to go to the forest. No, sorry, they're having husbands. These beautiful young girls, that they have husbands. And those girls, they go to the forest and dance with another man. So this is the meditation of the greatest sannyasis. So why is that? Why is Mahaprabhu asking the sannyasis to meditate, the devotees? But he's saying that these sannyasis to meditate on this Ras Leela, because the renunciation of the gopis has never been seen to such an extent. Not only did they give up all protection for that their family members were offering, they rejected them. To live, it means that the gopis, in going to see Krishna in this Ras Leela, that they gave up all protection. They gave up all security. And their family members were going to reject them, naturally. And they would have to live in the forest with dangerous animals. And they did all this for the pleasure of Krishna. Giving up all comforts of life for the pleasure of Krishna. They put aside all attachment to relationships. So whatever relationships they had, either to children or to husbands or to others, they put all that aside, all that attachment for Krishna. But these things that we've been describing are not very difficult compared to the supreme manifestation of their love, that they were willing to give up their pride, their prestige. Nothing more difficult than this. There's nothing more difficult, because you see, in a cultured lady, in a civilized society, there's nothing more valuable than her chastity. For the example is Draupadi. Draupadi, she understood that to be naked in the palace of the Kurus was millions of times worse than death. So the gopis were ready and willing to sacrifice their pride, their prestige of being chaste women for the pleasure of Krishna. Briefly, I remember one time, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, the devotees were in Singapore doing some business to collect money for the temple. And there was some complaint from some authority that they were there. And they said, oh, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj told us to come here. So when Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj heard that, we were in Bhuvaneshwar, he said, oh, they're blaming me. But we should be like the gopis. If any problems come, they will take full responsibility. They will not say, oh, Krishna told us to come. No, they take full responsibility. So in our practical daily life, that in the mood of the gopis, that the sadhak is taking full responsibility. He's never blaming the guru or blaming others. He's taking full responsibility for whatever difficulties may come in his life. So pride is the ultimate bondage of this world, most difficult to give up. The hardest thing in the world is to be humble. We see a person, that they may be fasting and doing so much, depriving themselves, but in their heart they're thinking that I'm great. So there is nothing more dangerous than pride in our heart. Sometimes pride is like a serpent, a sleeping serpent. It's not there, but then suddenly someone steps on that serpent and then jumps up and hisses at them. So pride is very difficult to overcome, but the gopis showed the ultimate humility for the pleasure of Krishna. They were willing to be seen by the whole of society as prostitutes. They didn't care if that's what it took to please Krishna. These devotees are the topmost of the devotees, because they're always thinking of Krishna with great faith. Krishna says that is the highest devotee. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga. So who is more immersed in Krishna than the gopis? So that is some explanation of this very special place, Chandra Sarova, where this Ras Leela took place, and some understanding of the Srimad Bhagavatam's view of the Raslila. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhuvevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
So now we're going to continue on our journey to Giriraj Govardhana. And we're going to arrive at the very beautiful temple, Srila Gurudev's temple here, Radha Binod Bihari, beautiful Giriraj Mandir here. This temple was built very quickly by Srila Gurudev. After he completed the construction of Durvasa Rishi Ashram, then he came straight here. His desire in building this temple was to comfortably accommodate all the Parikrama Yatris, all the pilgrims coming for Parikrama. He'd done the same in this Sri Keshava Gaudiya Math here in Navadvip, where we have a very large temple room and lots of facility for the devotees to rest comfortably in while they're doing the Parikrama. This particular location where Gurudev built this temple was where he personally spent time performing his own bhajan at Giriraj Govardhana. He left the mat at one time and he came here for a couple of months and he stayed here chanting and absorbing himself in the moods of Giriraj Govardhana. Giriraj Govardhana is so merciful. She can always fulfill all our innermost desires. So there's a beautiful pranam mantra that we can chant, this Namaste Girirajaya Shri Govardhan Namine Ashesha Klesha Nashaya Paramananda Dayine. And this is saying, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the King of Mountains, Giriraj, whose name is Govardhan. He destroys unlimited miseries and bestows the highest bliss. So this is the place that we've had the great fortune to arrive at today. And as I was just saying, this temple is very comfortable, very beautiful. It has a very large temple room with beautiful, majestic steps leading up and beautiful ornate gardens all around. And there's a lot of guest facility. We've just recently added a whole nother guest house to the whole complex, and there's ample cooking space. So the devotees become very comfortable in this environment. Previously in Vrindavana, as I described, it was somewhat congested. The devotees were sometimes living in different places, but here all the devotees, practically speaking, can stay together. So this was Gurudev's desire. This is why he manifested this temple, why he built this temple. And I can remember the very first time Gurudev went there with this idea of building the temple, and we had a ceremony drilling for water, just to see how sweet the water would be. And the indication of the sweetness of the water would indicate the auspiciousness of the enterprise of building a whole temple. And when we performed that activity, with many Brahmins, etc., came that day, and the water was very sweet, and Gurudev was very, very happy that everything was destined to be very auspicious at this place. And then within practically 18 months, 2 years, the principal aspects of that construction had been completed, and the devotees were able to stay there during Parikrama very comfortably all together and hear Srila Gurudev's sweet Harikatha. And it was in this place at Govardhana, it was during one Parikrama when Gurudev didn't come to Navadvip. There was only one time when he didn't come to the Navadvip Parikrama. There were some difficulties, so we all had our VRAJA-MANDAL Navadvip Parikrama here in Govardhana. And it was at that time when he was describing the glories of Govardhana. He was describing Giriraj Govardhana. We can worship him in 3 different aspects. We can either worship him as Bhagavan, that Supreme Lord, who assumed the form of Giriraj to take all the offerings that were offered by the Brijbasis after, just before the inundation by Indra of the water, trying to practically murder all the Brijbasis. So just prior to this, when on Krishna's suggestion, all the Brijbasis, they didn't do that puja to Indra as they had customarily done, and instead, on Krishna's encouragement, they worshipped Giriraj Govardhan and the cows, because Krishna's logic was that this is where we're getting our sustenance from. It's the mercy of Giriraj himself. So in order to put faith into the hearts of the Brijbasis, when they made such a wonderful offering of so many items and preparations to Giriraj Govardhan, in order to make their faith secure, he assumed the form, the mighty form of Giriraj Govardhana. With his 2 hands he ate all those offerings, and he drank all the waters from the kund that were being offered to him simultaneously, so enthusiastically. And afterwards he was saying, Anore, 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 give me more, give me more. And again the Brijbasis were giving him more and more preparations, until finally one Brahmin came with many bushes of tulsi and then gave tulsi to Bhagavan Krishna at that time, and then he was appeased and satisfied. So this form of Giriraj Govardhan as Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, we can worship. And then the second form we can worship is that of Haridas Avarya. This Haridas Avarya is described by the gopis, that Giriraj Govardhan is the greatest of Krishna's servants. Gurudev describes there are 3 principal Haridasas, great servants of Krishna. First of all, there is Yudhisthira Maharaj. He was serving Krishna so beautifully with his whole heart and self. And then there is Uddhav. Uddhav was also sold out, cent per cent, to Krishna's service, even to the degree where Krishna entrusted him with that message to come and pacify the gopis in Vrindavan. He was the only Mathuravasi that entered Vrindavan and could witness the extremity of the gopis' separation, and then be able to empathize with Krishna while he was in Dwarka. So Krishna would have a companion in Dwarka who understood the affection of the gopis for him, and also so that Uddhava would speak the glories of the Brijbasis' love to the Dwarkavasis. Uddhava was very respected, so much respected by all the Dwarkavasis and Mathuravasi. Uddhava, the name itself, means a festival of pleasure. This is what his name means: festivity, pleasure, beauty. So Uddhava, he had these wonderful qualities. He was a disciple directly of Brihaspati from Swagaloka, but he saw Krishna in full Aishwarya, that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we'll talk extensively about Uddhav in connection with Krishna and the gopis at other points in the Parikrama where we're going to go to, Uddhav Kyari, etc., near Nandagan. So we'll discuss the glories of Uddhava there. But he is a second Haridas. But that Haridasavarya, the gopis in Venugit, they proclaim that actually this is Giriraj Govardhan, because Giriraj Govardhan gives his whole body for the sweet pastimes of Krishna. Originally, Giriraj Govardhan is being described as being 8 yojans long. This means 64 miles. 1 yojan equals 8 miles. So he was 64 miles long. And he was 5 yojans, that means 40 miles wide. And he was 2 yojans high. That means 16 miles high. So 16 miles, that's very, very high. Mount Everest today is described as 8,548 meters, or 29,000 feet. That's the height of Mount Everest. So 16 miles. And of course, this is going right back into Satya Yuga. This is going millions of years previously. Because initially, when Giriraj Govardhan was this height, he was living with his father in the Himalaya mountains. And his father was Dronachal. And one time, Gurudev describes a rishi, Pulastya Rishi. He arrived at that beautiful place in the Himalaya, and he saw the sweetness of Giriraj Govardhan, the luxuriant trees and the beautiful lakes and the opulence of Giriraj. He was appreciating his beauty, and he, to such a degree, where he requested Dronachal, Giriraj's father, to please allow me to take your son Govardhan to my ashram. He wanted to put him in his ashram in Kashi, Benares. So Dronachal was very unhappy to hear this request of the rishi, but knew that the rishi could curse him, cause him a problem, if he didn't agree to his proposal. So he said, you can ask my son if he wants to come with you. So then Pulastya Rishi approached Giriraj, who agreed to come, but on the condition that if for any reason Pulastya Rishi should stop along the way and put him down, then Giriraj would not rise again. He would just stay exactly where he was. So Pulastya Rishi agreed to this, and then by his mystic potency he picked up this 64-mile long, 16 miles high, 40 miles wide Govardhan mountain, and carried him effortlessly through the airwaves on his way to Kashi. But when Giriraj came across the beautiful area of Vrindavana and the beautiful forests of Braj, then his heart became very excited, remembering the sweet pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Gurudev describes that actually Giriraj has come from directly the spiritual world. He's come from the manifestation of Sri Radhaji. So Giriraj is filled with these Braj moods. So when he came over Vrindavan and the Braj area, his heart began to dance and sing with pleasure, and his whole body became very heavy. And at that time Pulastya Rishi was feeling this extra weight and had to put Giriraj down for some time. And then it's described Pulastya Rishi, he had performed ablutions, etc., chanted mantras, and rested for a while. But then he came to again pick up Giriraj to carry to his ashram. But Giriraj could not be shifted 1 millimeter. So then Pulastya Rishi tried many different ways to pick up Govardhan, and Govardhan responded, I told you, if you put me down, this was our condition, that I would not rise again, so I will not rise again. Previously, of course, the mountains had flown around, so this is how they were able to actually travel through the airwaves like that. So Pulastya Rishi, he became very, very angry with Govardhan at that time, and he cursed Govardhan that he would sink by the size of 1 mustard seed per day. So 1 mustard seed per day seems to be insignificant, but over a period of thousands and thousands of years, it is very significant. Giriraj Govardhan, when he heard that curse, was in fact elated, because he understood that Krishna would not appear until the Dwapara Yuga, and that the mountain, his mountain size, was far too big for Krishna to comfortably perform his pastimes on. So with the gradual shrinking of Govardhan by 1 mustard seed per day, then eventually during the Dwapara Yuga, when Krishna manifested, Govardhan was practically only 2 miles high, and he had shrunk to a very compatible size for Krishna and Balaram and the Sakhas and the Gopis to perform their pastimes on. Giriraj is packed with beautiful secret caves and beautiful lush grasses for the cows and beautiful fruits for the Sakhas and waterfalls and very opulent, beautiful vegetation is there, all for Krishna's pleasure. So the gopis are proclaiming that in fact this Giriraj is Haridasavarya. Giriraj is the Haridasavarya. He is the topmost of all the Haridas personalities, higher than Yudhisthira, higher than Uddhav. So Giriraj is described as the emblem of Vrindavan. It's like the tilak, the very tilak of Vrindavan. It's described that in the atmosphere of Govardhana, Kali Maharaj cannot ever manifest. Until Govardhana disappears completely, Kali Maharaj cannot get his foot in the door. We can bring our lower modes with us, but Kali Maharaj himself can never enter the direct region of Giriraj Govardhana. So when we arrive in this atmosphere, because we see in Vrindavan, it's not quite like that. Vrindavan has been so exposed to, as we were saying yesterday, so much building up and so on. So many entrepreneurs and business people, even the mafiosa have their foot in the door, of course, and so much money is there. So all kinds of people have been attracted. So then Kali Maharaj has some influence there in Vrindavan, to some degree, of course, chanting Hare Krishna and offering pranams and just meditating on Radha and Krishna. Kali can never enter. But still, it's not as secure as Giriraj Govardhana. Giriraj Govardhana is completely free from the influence of Kali. So when we arrive there, we take shelter of our meditation on the beautiful nature and speciality of Giriraj. We appreciate his exalted service to the gopis, his exalted service to the Sakhas, his exalted service to Krishna and Balaram. In so many leelas, there are hundreds, thousands of leelas of Krishna performing his pastimes on the back of Giriraj Govardhana. It was so exciting for young boys, always newer and newer places to go, to explore, caves, etc. And for the gopis, so many secret places for their meetings. So Gurudev has described this second identity of Giriraj Govardhana as being Haridas Avarya. We can worship Sri Giriraj as the greatest servant of Krishna. And this would mean we would not offer Tulsi Devi to the lotus feet of a Giriraj Shila, for example. We will perhaps offer it to his hand so that he can offer it to Krishna. So in that mood, so devotees can worship their shalagrams as either Bhagavan or as the greatest servant of Bhagavan. And then during this one time, I personally only ever heard Gurudev describe it once, and that was during this parikrama. It was a Navadvip parikrama, but we were doing it in Vrindavan. And he described that how could Giriraj be anything less than feminine? How could a male be in those secret kunjas and those secret caves in a male form? How could that be possible? There is only one Purush, there is only one male in the pastimes of Krishna and the gopis, and that of course is Brajendra Nandan. So how could another male possibly enter those very confidential places? So Gurudev described that actually Govardhana, we can worship Govardhana as Girirani, the queen of that place. Govardhana. Govardhana means one who nourishes the goes, the gopas, the gopis, the cows, and the go as the senses also. There's 4 translations for go. Gopas, gopis, the senses, and the cows. This is all, and Vardhan means to nourish. So this personality is nourishing. So this personality can be worshipped as Giri Rani, the Saki of Sri Krishna, who's providing so much facility for Krishna's pleasure and pastimes in the beautiful setting of this mountain scene. So this is the third identity. So we have Bhagavan, Haridasavarya, and Girirani. So we can worship this personality in either of these three ways. So I described one pastime of Pulastya Rishi bringing Giriraj from Dronachal, his father in the Himalaya. But there's also another time when Giriraj was lifted up, and that was by Hanumanji, when Sri Ram was building the bridge to Lanka. So Giriraj was already there, as we've described, many millions of years ago. Pulastya Rishi brought Giriraj millions of years ago. And Lord Ram, his pastimes were performed not in the Treta Yuga that has just gone, but in the previous Treta Yuga before that. So this was when Ram's pastimes were performed. And it was at that time that Hanuman was searching for new mountains or big boulders to help build that bridge to Lanka. And he saw the effulgent Govardhana in Braj, and he came down immediately and he tried to lift Govardhana, but he couldn't. And then he decided, oh, this must be a very exalted personality. So he circumambulated Govardhana 3 times, and then again he attempted to lift, and then he described all of Ram's pastimes to Giriraj at that time to encourage him to come with him and take part in these beautiful pastimes of becoming part of the bridge to Lanka to rescue the darling Sita, who had been kidnapped by this demon Ravana. So Giriraj, he became very enlivened to hear this pastime, and he agreed to come. So Hanumanji just lifted him off the ground, and as soon as he lifted him off the ground, there came an aerial voice saying, no, the bridge to Lanka is complete now. We don't need any more mountains or stones. So Hanumanji, he put the mountain down, put Giriraj down straight away. And then Giriraj, he became so unhappy that he was no longer going to be able to perform the pastimes with Ram. And he held Hanumanji accountable for that lamentation. And he said that Hanumanji had to pacify him now that he had enthused him with this prospect of taking part in Lord Ram's pastimes, that now he had to pacify a mood of separation that was rising in the heart of Giriraj. So then Hanuman said, you wait here and I will go and speak to Ram. So then he flew back to Ram and he described all that had happened in relationship to Govardhana. And Ram immediately said, you tell Giriraj Govardhana that in my future incarnation as Krishna, then I will play on the back of Giriraj, and he will become such an intimate part of my pastimes. So you tell him like that in the Dwapara Yuga. So then Hanumanji, he returned and he described to Govardhana all that he'd heard from Ram, and Govardhana became pacified, and then he decided to wait. But all this time, of course, as we've described before, that Govardhana was sinking 1 mustard seed per day, so that by the time Krishna did manifest his pastimes there, then he was a very comfortable size for Krishna to perform his pastimes on. Of course, in Dwapara Yuga, we remember, the stature, the height of all the people and the trees and everything was so much increased. Krishna would have been about 16 foot high. Baladev probably 17, 18 foot high. The trees were huge, so everything was increased. So to fit a 2-mile high hill was very comfortable size. Today, 2 miles would be too high, so we don't think of it in that sense. We appreciate the difference in bodies of the residents at the time of Dwapara Yuga was so much increased because of good health, water, air, food, etc. So their bodies were so much greater. Today with Kali Yuga. Everything is minimized, everything is decreased, and we're seeing it increasingly shrinking. All good qualities and all auspiciousness is shrinking almost day by day in this age of Kali. So these are some of the glories of Giriraj Govardhana. In the evening tonight at our Giriraj temple, when everyone has found their places and are comfortably settled, then there is always beautiful Harikatha about Giriraj Govardhana. So some of the topics that I've just described now will be spoken tonight in glorification of Giriraj, in preparation for tomorrow when we'll start our Parikrama. Tomorrow we'll do the big end, the south end of Parikrama. We'll stop first of all at Dankeli, the Dankeli pastimes, which are just at the very beginning of the southern route around, and then we'll go to Dan Nivartan Kund, and then we'll go to Anayor, this beautiful village where Bhagavan Krishna accepted all the offerings of the Brijbasis, and then we'll come to Puchuri, which is at the bottom of Govardhana. Govardhana is shaped like a peacock, with the peacock is sitting down, and the peacock has his head into his stomach. So the mouth of Govardhana is actually in Jetipur, and Jetipur is just on the other side of Govardhana. First of all, we go to Anayor, and then we come to Puchuri, or we come to Govindakund, which is where Madhavendra Puri Pad is, but we'll hear this tomorrow. And then we come to Puchuri, and then we come around and we start going north again. Puchuri is the tail of the peacock. Puchuri means tail. So it's the tail end of Govardhana. And right there also is a beautiful temple of Lord Nrsingadev. And then when we come around, going up to the north again, then we come to the village of Jetipur. And then we continue on our way and we come back to Govardhana again. So tomorrow we'll make that journey, that parikrama, and hear the Harikatha along the way, glorifying Giriraj Govardhana and all the different pastimes that are performed there. So Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Giriraj Govardhana ki jai, Gaud Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.